What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Jack Ramsays, Danny Marang Brandon Sprague. It is Tuesday the 7th. God, I got to be better about knowing my days. What day of the actual week it is and what number day it is. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Help us grow the show. You know what to do. It's very easy. Click subscribe. You can find us wherever you get all of our wherever you get your podcasts. When I do remember to put them up real quick, everybody or the people who messaged me about not putting the Jack Ramsays After Dark up, that's a special thing. I'm not going to post podcasts that I get done doing at 1 o'clock in the morning, number one. Number two, I watched a little bit of that back, and I should not have podcasted. Should not have done it. I was completely gone. I was completely housed. That was not a good show. That's how those go. So if those make it into the podcast, be thankful. Otherwise, not going to be happening. Other than that, let's get right into it. Brandon Sprague, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. The Jack Ramsays After Dark is always a questionable move, I think, at best for you, given people don't understand this, and I know it's not going to land with everybody, but it's actually draining going to these games as a media member.
Yes.
It's fun. You shake hands, you say hi to people. Danny's saying hi to any and everybody he can, and then you talk to, Chauncey in the post game. You go to the locker room, you handle that stuff. You talk to some people after the game, like off the record. And before you know it, as you mentioned, it's like almost midnight. You got to drive an hour home. It's an emotional, and I think driving the hour that you have to drive home is like the emotional come down. So like your high of being at the game, it's worn off by the end of the night. And now you're home and you're like, I could do an after dark or I could go to bed. But you're kind of still too wired to go to bed, so you do an after dark.
Yeah, it's too wired to go to bed, but also my brain is mush. I watched the other one back, and I'm like, I have ideas, and they are coming out in like just the worst possible fashion. It's just
you got to take a notebook, I think, and write thoughts through the game that you're like, oh, this would be kind of an interesting thing to look back on. Yeah, exactly. You got like
guy?
one of those.
Yeah,
yes.
That's actually a new thing this year.
I like it.
I have the tweets, but I also have my chart book of things that I'm like. I remember everything through and through, but the it's one of those things of trying to find like that rhythm of through everything at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, it's a difficult thing to do. I'm glad that you got the book this year.
Yes. Small steps.
I think a thing to programming note should be noted for people. So when we started this thing a couple years ago, Danny wasn't at the radio station. He didn't have quite the access in terms of credentials and whatnot to go to the games the way he once did at NBC. That has obviously changed. Danny hosts a show noon to 3, and on Blazer home game nights, he's basically leaving his house and then being in Portland for the next like 8 to 9 hours most of those days, right?
Yeah, I get to the studio at about 11, and then I don't leave really Moda until probably 11:30.
So 12-hour days on home game nights. The point is we're going to change this up a little bit. We'll have the same open, same close. I'm going to kind of like tee Danny up because here's we're just being honest. I don't go to as many games or almost any games. I work at an ungodly hour of the day at 6 a.m. I wake up at 4 a.m. On days that I'm not working, I'm tired. And then days I'm working, it's even worse. So I'm going to kind of get us through the show. I got things I want to get to today, Danny. I know you're working on a Patreon that's coming out really soon on Shaedon. We're going to talk about that.
Yep.
We're going to talk about a point that I heard about Tumani. There's an ESPN list to get through today. I have a segment called X's and No's, like KNOWS.
Oh, look at this.
I want to. Well, I've seen you on Twitter the last couple of days, and I want to kind of tee you up for some stuff. I want to start with this, though. We'll get to the Rob Williams injury itself. I'm curious, just being around that team in the postgame, what that was kind of like and what you make of like Robert Williams, the announcement of surgery, and maybe being gone the rest of the year.
It sucked, man. When it happened live, I looked over somebody else in press row, and I was like, that's 6-8 weeks. You knew it right away that at bare minimum it wasn't going to be a little thing. Unfortunately, in the knee injury world, I might as well be a doctor. When you do this and you point to the knee, that's especially when you're a guy who's had those surgeries, those injuries before. It's a sound in your head that you know. It's a feeling in your body that and it's not. That's a little tweak. It's I'm cooked. It's not. Something's wrong. He was clearly in pain and very unstable, trying to leave the court. I ran into him for a split second in the locker room, coming out of the training room after the game. He wasn't on crutches, but he was not moving well. And a lot of, everyone was like, man, like you get the general injury stuff, but it was a lot of like, I just feel sorry for Rob because he's just like, he can't escape this. I'm really interested to see kind of which way they go with the surgery, either the cleanup versus the full repair.
The long-term.
Yeah. Like he's got money secure. Like it's NBA, it's fully guaranteed money, all that kind of stuff. He's got this year plus 2 years more on his contract. If you're going to do it, I think this year's the year to do it.
Yeah.
But I would imagine they're trying to talk about the idea of getting him healthy if they're going to deal him.
Right.
And I think that's the conversation they're probably having. Like, are you going to deal me to a competitor who's like they're a title worthy competitor? If that's the case, maybe I do the cleanup because I don't know how many more years I have left because, the doctors and the specialists are telling me, even though I just turned 26, I may only have a couple years left. So I think those are, again, I'm not saying that at all for those wondering. I'm literally just kind of spitballing off like why you would have different reasons for going about it. If you're going to go down the road of like the long repair, it's to give yourself the chance and the opportunity to continue to play more than a couple more years.
I'm curious what you think. I know this is one of the mail sack questions. We're going to get to the mail sack questions kind of at the back end of the pod, but I know this is one, but it was one I wrote down. What do you think it looks like now at the backup five? I know him and DA sometimes play together too, but what do you think this looks like now?
Number one, I wasn't a real big fan of the two big lineups. It just felt wonky.
I wasn't either.
As good as DA's been really good defensively, and so is Rob. It's a bummer that Rob got hurt before we got it. Kind of like first it was hey Scoot, then it was hey Shaedon, then it's this DA still gonna work things. Like there was something grabbing a hold of all of our attention bit by bit before we could ever really get to Rob, and every time he was on the floor, he was good.
He was.
There's a couple clips that I have that I've got from Tumani that I put up on the Patreon of him funneling everything to Rob, and Rob being there to either deter a shot or block a shot or alter a shot. And it was like, yeah, this is working really well. Like, again, granted, they're playing teams that can't shoot to save their lives, but when they were getting funneled to the rim, there was effective stuff because of what Rob was allowing them to do. And so that was super interesting. I think they're going to go Jabari small ball in the opportunities that they can get away with it.
Yeah.
I would imagine since Moses is on the roster and not a two-way, he would get the first crack at it, but maybe they go with three. Like, I haven't asked yet to see which way they're leaning on that. I think the first opportunity is probably going to go to Bari. That's the way I would probably lean. It's not like he's been playing super, super, super heavy minutes, so I don't think you really have to move the rotation all that much. Let me pull his minutes up. I think he's playing 15 a night.
Well, I was gonna add to that, Danny. As you look that up, I
13.
I'm kind of excited. I know this sounds kind of stupid. I'm not expecting the world here, but I am kind of excited about the idea of seeing Bari at the 5 for their next game. Just kind of getting an idea of what this looks like. Maybe that's what they do before they ultimately decide what maybe their longer term goal is if this doesn't work out. But I know just thinking about this since the injury was announced, seeing it at Sacramento tomorrow is kind of an exciting thing for me as a fan and something to watch for, I guess, throughout the season.
Yeah, no, I think it's entirely fair. I'm trying to think of who, because I haven't. Weirdly enough, I usually catch the Kings by now. I'm trying to think of who they're really leaning on. Is it JaVale? My God, they're leaning on JaVale.
Yeah, it's JaVale. Yeah.
Yikes! I didn't think they'd do that. Okay.
Season's young, my man. Let's calm down.
Yikes, dog! He was unplayable in Dallas.
Yeah, he was literally not playing.
Yeah, I okay. But again, they don't really have anybody else with like real size. So I guess they have Len. Yeah, why aren't they playing Len? Whatever. Anyways, Mike Brown knows what he's doing. But if JaVale has like found himself a little bit, fine. That's a pretty big ask for Jabari, not because JaVale is like this great player, but because he's so bleeping big.
Well, he's so long. I mean,
but
what's his reach? Isn't he like a 7'8"?
I would say 7'4", 7'5". Oh no,
yeah.
Is he 7 foot tall? He's probably 7'6", 7'7". He's like JaVale is huge. Let's see, JaVale McGee wingspan 7'6". Yeah. So it's him, Anthony Davis, Andre Drummond. You're basically looking at as the biggest wingspans in the league. Like he's a massive dude. And Jabari's 6'7.5".
Right.
So he's like 4.5 inches shorter, and I think Bari's like a 7 foot wingspan guy. Like he's definitely not short armed, but like that's a difficult thing. Yeah, he's 6'11". He's a 6'11" wingspan. So like, cool. Like that's a good place to be, but like JaVale's huge. The thing is there for Bari, and this will be the same thing for him every night, is he's just gonna have to beat guys to it and outwork dudes like a son of a bitch. Like that's the reality. Yeah. He's just gonna have to outwork dudes a ton.
I want to get to a list that came out. We need to talk about Tamani a little bit because I think people are really excited to talk about Tamani and the start to his career in Portland. We'll get to the X's and O's and the questions. I do want to ask quickly before we get to the list. I look, I particularly am not fond of the idea of the in-season tournament, the Cup.
It was a rousing success.
Well, what I would say is,
I'll just be blunt. It was wildly successful on opening night.
Well, okay. So what makes you say that? Because I watched almost, not all the game, but like I watched a lot of the games, checked in on League Pass. The court was like, whoa, on television, like super bright and distracting. Why do you say it was a rousing success?
Ratings for second Fridays in the NBA were the highest they've been in 26 years.
Is that the tournament or is that just circumstance good matchups on TV?
I think it's...
I'm trying to think of who those games were.
None of, like, Memphis, Portland? Like, is
Memphis,
anybody...
Portland was on there.
Yeah, I know, but is anybody excited about that?
About Memphis and Portland playing?
Yeah. Who's excited about that?
No. Just us.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think any of the games on paper were Cleveland, Indiana, New York, Milwaukee, perhaps?
New York, Milwaukee, I could see.
Thunder, Warriors, like... You've got...
That was a good game.
Sure, you've got League Pass hipsters in the Warriors market. Every Warriors game's always going to have that. But Wizards, Heat?
Right.
Dallas, Denver. Like, that's a great game.
Well, what I would say, though, is to what you're saying, like, is skeptical. And, like, I know ultimately you and I are going to... We're going to like a lot of these kinds of ideas. This is a big blanket for the league, right? This is a way to get people who aren't really that interested at this point of the year to watch. And what I would say, if you're telling me the ratings are up, is as a NBA fan, watching that Memphis game, like, would it have make or break my attitude if they would have lost their first Cup game? No, but I did find myself watching this Friday with my brother-in-law going, come on, man, I want them to win this game. And Shaedon gets the block and, like, you start to kind of feel a little something. Again,
there was
I don't
juice
know
in that building, and here's why. It's the court. It was very, 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 very smart. You know why? Because every single bleeping player that came out on the court was like, what is this? And all of a sudden, you're playing on a different court, which gives you mentally a different feel. And I'll tell you this, I don't think I said it anywhere else yet. There were so many dead spots on that floor.
Really?
Oh, brother. When they had so many issues, not just here in Portland, in Denver, Grant Williams was warming up before the game, and he was leaving in shoot around, so it wasn't quite that early, or it wasn't like running up to the game. He was leaving every three short. Every single. He's like, what the hell? So they got the tape measure out and measured it. 3-point line was wrong. In Indiana, the both teams said the floor was too slick. Like there was a lot of issues. Like the floors were not made exactly the same as the one, at least in Portland, that they have originally.
So it's a different material?
It's no. Like the way it was cut.
Oh, okay.
So it's not exactly the same. So it wasn't just like plug and play court. I was dribbling with Ryan Gomes, the player development coach, before the game in the corner closest to the Blazers bench. And he goes, watch this, doom doom. Like, okay, you can hear that. It definitely sounds hollow. And then, doof, and the ball dropped 2 feet.
Oh, no.
And I was like,
the worst.
I was like, definitely don't want to get that rhythm dribble on the catch and shoot there because you might put the ball down and not have it come back up. So there's like all these little things, but more than that, the jerseys and the court, like there was pomp and circumstance. Even if it was manufactured, it was real. And that translated, I think, to the game, is that it did feel different. It's like the bubble. There's nobody in there. Guess what happened? Everybody shot the living hell out of the ball. Everybody.
They also talked a lot of trash, and it got personal. Like it got heated in some of those games.
It was great because you could hear everything.
Yeah, right.
But like that, like when you make those environmental changes, things happen mentally. So changing the court, changing the jerseys, it has a little bit of a psychological twist to it, and it is. I mean, do you think that maybe that carried over? Let's see, 9-point game, 2-point game, 7-point game, 2-point game, 2-point game, 5-point game, 5-point game. I bet you if you spun a wheel and picked any other night in the NBA, you wouldn't get that close. Now, the average margin of victory in the NBA is 5, so you're going to get that variance, but they were all close.
Yeah.
And I think that the big part of that was because of that kind of mental shift.
I don't know if I disagree with you, but I'm also kind of curious. What?
Good sell?
No, I mean I think you're making a lot of really good points. It's discouraging to hear that the league can't get their courts together. I mean, this is a pretty big deal, right?
Yeah, they're going to make sure that gets tightened up.
It's a massive bummer. I also like the next game for Portland, for example, for this is going to be on Tuesday the 14th at Utah. So the group play is going to be kind of hit and miss night by night. But what I would say though is to that last point you made of how close the games are. We just kind of name teams though that are alike, right? Like Memphis and Portland are basically the same team right now.
Sure. But did they know that when the schedule was going to come out? No. Things have changed in that direction. But like Oklahoma City, Golden State, they're kind of close right now. Sure.
Milwaukee hasn't taken off quite yet. Mm-hmm. Like I know they're winning, but like they've had their struggles too.
It's been janky.
Yeah, and so like they're better than New York, but it's not like it's this massive gap yet. So
especially with Julius Randle playing the way he is.
Well, I'm curious to see as we follow this thing along, how much more vested we feel emotionally about it, and where ultimately we land on the first season of the Cup. I want to ask you about the ESPN 25 under 25 thing, and I don't know about you, man. Like I like lists just I like to read, and I'm curious. But I don't like to work myself up over lists. This one, however, almost kind of got to me here, Danny. This one is the best 25 players that are under the age of 25. Mm-hmm. And I went through the list, and I was like, okay, yeah. Nodding my head a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Scoot Henderson's on this list. Okay, Scoot Henderson at 23. Keep scrolling.
Yeah.
No Anthony Simons. No Shaedon Sharpe.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that, and who you can't believe is on?
Yeah, Cade Cunningham coming at 6, and I think Cade's been fantastic this year. He's doing a lot while playing in a phone booth. There's no spacing on that team. He's got the worst shooter in the league on his team, and Killian Hayes out there. They put James Wiseman on a court against the Blazers, and it set the Pistons back 12 years. Anybody who wanted to trade for James Wiseman in the Gary Payton trade, just take yourself out back. What's that thing that the guy wears in that the Italian freaking movie, Angels and Demons with Tom Hanks? He wears the thing around his ankles that like tears his skin as like a way to atone for his sins.
Oh my God!
Oh yeah,
you want people that wanted to get James Wiseman in a trade to wear something that rips their skin?
At bare minimum.
What is wrong with you? You're ruining my X's and No's segment right now already, man. What are we doing here?
I'm just saying, like, be smarter about things. He's not good.
How did Ant not make this list?
I am a little surprised because you do have Harrow at 22. Scoot at 23. Whoo, and the first line is, let's see, like, Bobby Marks is the one who wrote Scoots, and it says, Henderson's ranking is based on the future, not the present.
But that's a ridiculous. Okay, I like that Bobby Marks did that. It's a ridiculous way to do the rankings, right? Like if you're doing this honestly, yeah, you have to have some names for cachet and clicks, but
sure. Immediately, the next person in front of Scoot is Tyler Harrow, and it says Harrow has shown flashes of brilliance in his first 4 seasons, but after being heavily discussed in trade rumors all seasons, he appears to be in the midst of a breakout performance this season. So it's like there's no consistency into what they're trying to do here, which. No. Shocking. Any ESPN list is meant to do what we're doing right now.
I know. I just, people were talking about it. No Shea, no Ant. And I thought it was ridiculous. Like, I like Sengun. I think he's a good player. The Houston Rockets have 2 players on this list. The Houston Rockets.
Yeah. Jalen Green being above all of these guys.
That's wild to me.
I would not have Jalen Green on my list. I'll just go there.
No, I wouldn't either. But yeah, lists are meant to do this, to drive conversation, to get people upset. Let me ask you quickly. If they redo this at the end of the year, is Shaedon or Ant or both on this list?
Yes. One would be on this list.
One would be on this list.
For sure.
And your take on that would be?
I'd probably say Ant just because of where he's at right now. Like Tyrese Maxey is averaging 26 and basically 6.5. I came into the season expecting Ant to be like between 25 and 27 and 7. So yeah, I would expect Ant to be right around that.
Yeah. I wanted to get to this real quick. Tamani has been a big topic in my group chats. I think a lot of people are excited. Like, there's not a lot you can sell to some of the fans on this team because of the situation, but one of them that you can is Tamani Kamara's emergence. I think is the 2nd round guy that you got in a trade, and the Blazers liked him in the pre-workout, and here he is. He's getting heavy minutes. And, you mentioned this before the season, and I wanted to bring it back. There are things to look for in these seasons that are not wins and losses. And the one thing you like to say is you love the process, the development part of this, right? You like to go through these videos. You got this Shaedon Patreon up that I think people are going to really enjoy about his offensive distribution. And I'm going to tee you up for that in a minute. But I wanted to bring up Tamani because I find him a very interesting topic. There's a lot of people, I mean, it's Portland, but there's a lot of people that are like, yo, they really found maybe their starting 3 here. I don't know about that long-term, Danny, but you go to the practices and games. You talk to a lot of people on and off the record. This has got to be, I would imagine a team in their situation, this is almost like a godsend, right? A 2nd-round player hitting this quickly.
Yeah, and it's hitting in a place they need it, which is competitiveness, toughness, and defense. Two's offense is still lingering. Okay, that'll be his make or break. But right now, I mean, in a row, Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, Desmond Bane. 4 games in a row. That's what Chauncey Billups charged him with. Game 1 against Memphis, comes out in the half, starts 2 in the second half. Not as like Tease isn't good enough, but 2 gives you a different look, and Bane's going off.
Yeah.
That's the trust that Chauncey already has in 2. Like, that's for a coach to believe in a rookie that much, brother. For Chauncey to believe that much in a rookie, to be like, no, I'm going to give you some real responsibility, brother. Hang on, is nuts. They even on offense, they trust him to just like make the right reads. If he can become a 3-point shooter, like 36, 37%, like they've found a real 3-and-D guy. But defensively, man, I've got my Patreon series, the like one thing that I'm watching nightly. I think it was the second or third one that I did. And it was about defensive activity. And I highlighted Deandre Ayton getting steals and blocks at a rate that he has not gotten them at yet in his career. And Tamani taking on those like apex wing young players. Like Bane, Cade, Scotty they're all big, strong, long. Go.
Well, I was just going to add like the Cade one specifically. And look, Bane is strong. He's the muscle hamster.
Good God.
It's got to be impressive to see. But I actually was most excited for the Cade game. And I felt like, especially in the second half when they went cold, like he couldn't buy a bucket.
Oh, he made Cade work his ass off. It was
Dude,
it was impressive.
He put him in hell. I thought he put him in hell in the second half of that game.
Yeah.
I'm legitimately I was kind of excited they got him. I'd watched some of his college tape and I'm like, okay, there could be something here.
Sure.
I'm blown away how quickly he has become a staple in the rotation. And when you look at like, I think Hyken had it and he may have deleted it, but our homie Hyken had like net rating lineups for the Blazers and how many different versions they've had. Tamani's in most of them on the positive net rating. So it's like he's making an absolute difference when he's playing. And it's just who could have seen this? Even the organization themselves, I'm not sure would say we expected Toumani Camara to do this quickly.
No, I don't think so either. And actually, I can pull this up while we're talking too. Let me pull up Toumani filtered lineups.
Well, and the other thing I would add to this, as you look that up too, is like this is the roster building thing that's interesting to me. Is Joe, like you're talking about how you have to structure your future here, but now it's like, hey, this guy comes in this trade, and it's early. I get it, but man, he's really showing some really positive flashes. For somebody like Joe Cronin, I'd imagine you kind of sit back and you kind of have to go, okay, wait, how does this change? It's an ever-evolving equation, I feel like, for somebody like Joe and the organization when you're roster building with youth and something like this happens and it happens in a positive way.
Oh, for sure. Like you need these kind of wins along the way. And according to Cleaning the Glass, the Toumani lineups, which is 325 possessions, the Blazers are a plus 4.6 in net rating. That puts them in the 68th percentile. Defensively, they're in the 92nd percentile.
Wow.
103.1. Offensively, they're in the 25th percentile. Effective field goal percentage, they're in the 2nd percentile. We won't talk about how bad the offense is.
We don't need precursors. We don't need them.
Yeah, the offense is atrocious, but their offensive rebounding is insane. Their free throw rate is insane. They're defending without fouling. Like they're in the 93rd percentile in effective field goal percentage defensively. Like they're with Toumani on the floor, they're very good. If I take Toumani and put Toumani off the floor, let's see where we are. Filter lineups. So we go from plus 4.6. Holy crap.
What are they with Toumani off?
Minus 17.8.
Minus 17?
The non-Toumani lineups are a 4th percentile differential. The Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Matisse, JGDA lineup has 111 possessions. It is in the 3rd percentile in difference, a minus 26.5. The offense is a 91.9 points per possession per 100 possessions, which is the 6th percentile. They are in the 29th percentile defensively at 118.4. Like I can tell you right now, if I take one other guy off the floor right now, let's go Scoot Henderson filter lineups. Negative 5.3. So I mean, it's not hard to find.
Yeah,
where that problem lies right now.
We didn't need to do that, but I'm glad.
But it also shows you the difference between a 19-year-old and 23-year-old. Like that is the difference. Like, and it's not the same for everyone because Chris Murray's 23 years old. It's like there's different levels of like development that come along with this. But Toumani is a dude who you know what you're going to get. And the thing that I love about him, and I've asked other players about this, that like people in the organization, too, is such a nice guy. He's so sweet. He's so kind. Da, 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 da. And I've talked to a few people at Dayton who were like, no, he really wasn't an instigator. That man is a shit-talking banshee on the floor in the NBA.
Yes, he was.
And it has been phenomenal. OG Anunoby got tired of him and shoved him. Isaiah Stewart, Beef Stew in Detroit, got tired of his shit and threw him. Marcus Smart got tired of him. Santi Aldama
like warned him.
Oh yeah, and which is funny because I tweeted about it. Like one of the all-time instigators being mad about somebody else instigating. It's just like, come on, brother.
Right.
Santi Aldama hooked him, and Tumani wasn't having any of it. He just threw it, took off. Aldama sprints. He is 100% going to push Tumani in the back. He is going to sprint and give him the two-handed. Like Ed Malloy stops the whistle, and like Aldama looks like, what? Like he wasn't going to do anything. He's like, nope, you're getting hit with this immediately. And that's what sprung the 10-minute review. But I asked Tumani about it in the locker room after the game. Like, are you, you're getting under people's skin. He's like, it's not who I am. But if you say a few things, I'm not going to back down. And he does not back down. And it's real because on the defensive end, he's going to make you work. He's going to take those 45. He's going to cut you off. He's going to body you up. He's going to play defense with his feet. If he gets a chance to take a step and jump up and send your shit back, he's going to do it. If he's going to get a deflection and get it out, he is going to work and work and work. I have yet to see, look, he makes mistakes, but it's the old adage of like he's making a mistake at 100%. Like it's a full sellout. It's like,
right.
But you understand why. You understand why that goes that way.
And I think that's kind of what brings me to this is I wanted to do a segment about X's and O's. X's and O's is basically, it's a play on that because so I want to be honest about this for the audience. Like sometimes I see you respond to people and I honestly, I read it just like this. Danny, I read it like this. I go, or I'll read it and go, and I'm just like, so cold. Like some of these people watch our stuff. They consume the content. And look, I also know that they know that they can rib you a little bit and get you fired up. And some of these people go home, they buy a bottle of lotion, and they think about how you responded in a mean way. And it kind of like makes them happy and turned on. And look, there's no kink shaming on this podcast.
Hey, look, man, however you want to get about it, just make sure you send a tip to the Only Dans.
But the Only Dans. The thing I wanted to highlight was I think you got access to stuff that people don't. And I'm not talking about the people who like attack you, but sometimes I see people say things and I'm not reading them, I think, in the same voice as you. And so we talked about this before the podcast starts where you read a tweet, and I won't say a name or a tweet, but like as an example, when you read it in your head out loud, you kind of went, yeah, well, how come Jerami Grant ain't that good? And you kind of create this negative.
Oh, 100%. And the reason is because this is why. 100%. Yeah. If it's the first time I've interacted with you, if it's the 37th time I've interacted with you and you're still saying the same stupid shit, that's when it's like, okay, dude. Like that we've had the back and forth of 1,000 times of like, I've tried to help you see the light on this. You're just not willing to accept the reality. And at that point in time, the tone changes 100% because I'm just tired of it. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you should be more patient. Why? Why should I be patient with stupidity on the 37th time? I'm just not going to be.
Well, what I would say though,
not.
Danny, if it gets to the 37th time, I don't think I'm responding to the person anymore. I get people that's like 3 times and I'm like, I'm out. I'm not responding to this stupidity anymore.
That I could probably be better about. 100%. 100%.
Okay. But what I wanted to do here was for the people who have questions, okay, you have access to numbers and knowing some of the things. Knowing what you know is great. Knowing it and backing up with numbers, I think, is a different thing. And a lot of us don't have some of the numbers. So, like, let me give you a quick example, okay? Sure. And then I want to ask you what you think of the Shaedon-led offense, because it's clearly been noticeable, I think, the last 2 games. The beginning of the year, the Clipper game, I kind of went against Chauncey. Like, I just thought they were lethargic. They looked unorganized. They just didn't look ready to play a basketball game.
I don't think they were.
That can happen. No, okay, and that's fine. I'm not expecting the world here. But you posted something after that game that basically showed the offensive structures and what they run that's good or what would be run as poor and classifications based on their outcomes. And that was eye-opening for me because I can't find that information. Yeah. And it shows ISO, good, all these
literally everything else was very poor.
Right? So I want us in this kind of segment on the podcast, because you have access to numbers, because you know the game, I want to explain things to people a little bit here. And if they tweet you 37 times, please just mute them. It's not, I mean, if you want to dunk, okay. But Shaedon led the offense in a few times in these last 2 games. When it first started, I was kind of like, I kind of like this. I want to see what Shaedon's going to do and how this works and like how he operates in that role while still doing what his kind of like set role is for the team.
Sure.
What are the numbers? I know you got a Patreon on this, so we don't want to give this all away. But what are the numbers saying about the offense and the early evolution, no scoot, Shaedon kind of running? Like, what's your observations of the Blazer offense right now?
Okay, so for what those are, what Brandon knows the nuts and bolts of the Patreon that's coming out. Like I've got the ones that I give out for free. This is the one that's not for free because they're quite
a lot of
literally
work.
Is dozens of hours of work into this stuff. But the Shaedon Sharpe DeAndre Ayton pick and roll has a top 40 total number of actions run in the NBA between pairings, right? So you're starting to get an understanding. Like Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley and Shaedon Sharpe and DeAndre Ayton have run the same amount of actions. So like you kind of have an understanding of where it's at. Obviously, they have a better understanding from a previous relationship, but it just kind of gives you a bar to go against. Similarly, Eric Gordon and Yusuf Nurkic have. So again, brand new teammates, players that aren't typically charged with running an offense, but you have a veteran Gordon who could probably compensate a little bit. Okay. With all of that said, the points per chance for the Shaedon Sharpe DeAndre Ayton pick and roll is in the 26th percentile. Okay. It's not good. And a lot of it has to do with Shaedon is feeling out who he is as a pick and roll ball handler. What he can do off the bounce. And I'm not just talking about his ability to pull up and shoot. It's his decision making. When Anthony Simons got the reins the year before last, when Dame groin went and CJ's lung collapsed, which unfortunately happened to him again. Shout out CJ, get better soon, dude.
Yeah, I hope he's all right.
Yeah. But Ant had already had a decent diet of pick and roll, and you saw him explode as a scorer with wild efficiency because not only could he explore the pick and roll, like the initial action, but it was what he would do after the initial action. His man is, they switch. Okay, back it out, attack the switch because I know I can get my shot against the switch. Or I get there and beat him. I've got 2 reads. One to the short side, dunker spot, handoff, dunk. One to the same side corner for 3. Like, the decision tree was linear but broader. Shay's is just straight up and down. If X, then Y. If Y, then Z. So when Shea turns the corner, if he beats his man, the first thing he is likely to do, and I don't want to say it as it's settling, but he beats his man. He makes the read, which means he's going to get to his spot. Okay, which getting to his spot is getting to either to that elbow pull up or that 3-point pull up where he's got space.
Can I interject on that though? How I would wonder a couple things here. One, with the numbers on DA with the screens, it's interesting they're doing this with him. He's 20 years old, right?
Shea, yeah.
Okay, Showtime Shea. He's 20 years old. Danny, he didn't play college basketball, so he's basically a high school kid coming out of Kentucky.
Yep.
I can't fathom how many times that guy has ever in his life needed a screen in any situation.
Just get to his spots, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's the most.
Because of the high school kids, he's going to destroy them.
It's insane, and so I think that kind of lends itself to this part. You say settling. Well, you don't like to use that term, but I mean, it's kind of considered settling the mid-range instead of maybe attacking.
Sure. But also being able to be a guy who can hit that mid-range shots, can break defenses. That's the ability to hit that pull-up is an indicator of being an elite scorer. When they're running you off the 3-point line and they're walling you off at the rim, can you pull that defense up to either make the pass behind it, or can you hit that shot to where they have to come up, and then it opens up other passing lanes for you, and then you make the decision tree from there to kind of either get it to the corner, dunker spot, or recycle, turn it around, and get it going to the other side.
Well, yeah, and I wonder with that too, like, it's just a comfort thing. right? He hasn't run a whole lot of points, so I wonder how
Yeah.
comfortable it is for him to just come off the screen and naturally, well, I'm a shooter. Like, I got an
Yeah,
open look.
it's exactly
you know?
it. And he's not making a ton of advanced reads. And this isn't a shot at Shea. This is why I tell people he doesn't need to have every single pick and roll run for him, because he can't handle it right now. And saying he can't handle it is not some sort of negative connotation. It just means his game hasn't advanced there yet. If you watch Malcolm Brogdon play basketball, when he reads a pick and roll, do you ever see him hesitate on a read?
No.
He just knows what,
because he knows who he is, and he knows the
he
situation.
knows the defense. Exactly. Shea, like, this is going to sound so like ethereal and bullshittery, but like he has to explore who he is. And so the Blazers can't sit there and go, okay, Shea, you're going to run every pick and roll this game, and the other guys that are adults that are professional basketball players are going to sit here and watch you grow. Mm-hmm. That is not the team dynamic that the NBA exists in. This is not NBA 2K. You don't just get to spam the same things over and over and over again, okay? But what you can do is give him opportunities. Against the Memphis Grizzlies in the fourth quarter, in the second game when they were trying to find offense, I put these up on Twitter. There was 5 different opportunities for Shaedon Sharpe in the pick and roll to take advantage. He passed up on 3 of them. One of them, he turned the ball over. The other one, he missed a shot. Mm-hmm. But they gave him 5 opportunities. I want to say it's 5 out of 8 possessions where Chauncey very clearly put the ball in his hands to make decisions. The decision he made was that this isn't my shot. Mm-hmm. And he passed it over to Brogdon, or he passed it over to Jerami, or he passed it over to Kamara. Those are the things.
But they're largely the same passes as what you're saying too, right? It's not a lot of creation.
It's a lot of horizontal action. There's
Gotcha.
not a lot of penetrating passes. There's not a lot of things like, oh, that's going to lead to a shot. It's just a simple pass. And that's the thing. It's horizontal in nature. And not all horizontal passes are created the same. If you draw the defense with a quick drive or a jab step and somebody cheats over and you throw a quick pass, I mean, that's what happened with the Malcolm Brogdon offensive foul on Marcus Smart. Remember the one where, like, Shea comes off out of the corner out of a DHO action and looks to push. He sees Marcus Smart cheat. Marcus Smart, Defensive Player of the Year. Jaren Jackson Jr., Defensive Player of the Year. Like,
right.
Desmond Bane, really good defender. Like, they have a lot of really good. Bismack Biyombo, really good defender. Like, they have 4+ and 2 elite defenders on the floor. Okay, so you get Shea, who reads Marcus Smart is coming over. In his head, he's making the right read, and he probably is. He kicks the ball to Malcolm Brogdon. Brogdon sees the defense in rotation. He attacks. Smart gets there, cuts him off, offensive foul. That is not Malcolm Brogdon isolating. That is attacking a defense chasing or in rotation, and Marcus Smart making a play. Sometimes you have to go, tip your cap, the defense made a play. Mm-hmm. But Shaedon Sharpe didn't look to press. And there's multiple times throughout that game and throughout those 2 games against Memphis where he got switches, where if that's Ant, where if that's Dame, where if that's Brogdon, where if that's CJ, it is barbecue chicken.
Yeah.
Barbecue. Like, you can't stay with me. I'm going to hezzy, tween, or I'm going to screen and rescreen. I'm going to get to my spot, and there is not a single thing you can do about it. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, the interesting thing is, there was a difference of that throughout the games as they progressed, because in Toronto, when they started kind of ramping up his pick and roll volume with DA, almost every single one of his picks with DA resulted in a shot. So, like, it was very much of, I think if I had to guess, and I want to kind of confirm this with Shea and Chauncey, but just from watching the film, it was see if you can get to your spots. Take the screen, see if you can get to your spots to get a shot. Like, make it very simple for you about, like, the process. Again, that's what this is. You don't need Shaedon Sharpe making the 5th advanced read on a pick and roll. You want him to master the first read, then the second read, then the third read. And that's the progression tree this goes through. And that's why this stuff isn't linear, because you'll make mistakes in the first read. You'll make mistakes in the second read. But you don't get to run 80 pick and rolls a night by yourself to learn it.
I think my final point on this, because it's kind of good to dive into this. My final point is I can't help from my vantage point to look at the situation and say how beneficial these learning experiences can be for him. And then also, like, I don't know what the future is with the Ant Scoot stuff and all that, whatever, but neither one of them are being available right now because of the injury. You know, how I would imagine that organization, the coaching staff, kind of excited about this. If Shaedon can turn some of this around, if some of these, he creates a little more, he becomes a little more assertive, like being out there knowing one of your guards or both your guards and your other, your scoring options, one primarily an Ant, like how much of like picking up the load while the other's not on the court down the road that can be.
And that's the thing about this is like watching the second quarter, really, when Ant is cooking for against the Clippers, the space the Blazers have to work with in that quarter has not existed in any other game. And that is an elite defense. The guys they've got Harden out there, so that defense is going to get a little bit.
But for the most part,
get what like you can see it. You just throw it on. I saw somebody in the chat saying Shaedon Sharpe needs to have more off-ball screens run for him. He's 20th in the league in off-ball screens, total off-ball screens.
Really?
Yes. So he's sandwiched in between Paul George and Karis LeVert with Zach LaVine and Kawhi Leonard and Michael Porter Jr. all right there. So he's getting, and this is the whole idea, Shea is getting so many opportunities. Opportunities do not equal box score translation, i.e. field goal attempts, assists, and or turnovers. Opportunities mean chances to make something happen. And it's not a negative or a positive if he doesn't, but it's like when I go back and watch the film, I go, they're giving him real looks.
Go ahead. Can I ask you real quick then? Do you feel like, I know he's scoring and people are really high on him. I don't want this to sound like we're bashing Shea at all. I'm a huge baby Kobe fan, right? But I feel like even as good as he's played, there are still moments I'm watching going, I feel like he could be a little more aggressive. Like,
100%.
I feel like he could get a couple more shots.
He's only really been truly aggressive in 2 games. The Toronto game and the first Memphis game. Those are the and that's what the notes say. Like I just have a crap ton of notes of like when he's been aggressive, and it comes in bunches. Like I'll just say this: there's a group against Toronto where he gets these are all of his pick and rolls in order. His first pick and roll, it turns into a shot. It's free throws. His next pick and roll is a driving shot. It's that leads into a pull up. His third pick and roll is a shot where he's fouled. His fourth is a driving shot pull up. His fifth is a driving shot. His his last pick and roll in that sequence is a pocket pass to Deandre Ayton. So it's shot, pass. Like he finds his aggressiveness, and then when he realizes probably 2 or 3 shots later the defense is starting to overplay him, and that the gap has opened up to where it's very clear what the play needs to be, which is pass, he makes it. And I think that's the part of this. The same thing that happened in another series where it goes pull up, drive, pull up, drive. All in a row. Like it's a very, very singular focus of, oh, I know I can get to this spot on this guy. And that's the trial and error in building stuff up. Now, is it always the right play? No. Is it worth it to maybe extend things a little bit further to do some more? Probably. Also, there's times when against Memphis and against Orlando. Shout out Orlando Sanchez.
I was going to say, shout out Sanchez there.
But Orlando played under a couple pick and rolls of his, but brought help, whether it was Wendell or Paolo or Jalen Suggs digging. Like when you get in Shaedon's periphery, he seems to want to back it out and reset. It's very much like his operating space has blinders. And so that aggressiveness has limits. So if you cloud his vision, it deters him. But if you're against Detroit, where I thought he looked really good, it was because there was space. It's a bad defensive team. There was space to operate. It wasn't clustered. It wasn't cluttered. His vision wasn't obstructed. And because of that, he was super aggressive in getting into the paint.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's good. I think that's a good start for a segment I like to call X's and No's, where
20 minutes long.
Well, no, but I kind of wanted to go extended on that segment. I think it's important, as annoying as some people can be on social media, there is a part of me as your co-host of this podcast, when I see you respond and I go, we could just explain this. And then like, if they still come at you, then like, let them be stupid. But I really wanted to dive in specifically about Shaedon, because obviously he's been a huge topic of conversation for people. And obviously the offense, he looks good to people. Like even in his Memphis game where he blocked the shot, he wasn't shooting particularly well. I know he was sick that night, but it just looks like it's coming together for him. And in year two, I didn't really know what expectations with numbers. I just wanted to kind of see it, and I feel like I'm seeing it, even though it's only a handful of games into the season.
And that's the thing, is like numbers can tell you some things. The film will give you the thing to marry it to, especially when you take everything, you strip everything else away and you're watching for something specifically. Okay, what is happening here? What is the process? What is the decision tree? What does that look like? And I think when you start watching the game that way, you start to be able to pull those things back. And it's like, I think the Blazers are giving Shaedon a lot of opportunities right now.
For sure they are, yeah.
I think Brogdon and Grant are getting more of them because they have a decade of experience behind them in being successful. Does that mean Jerami Grant is the best guy to have initiate and finish all of your plays? No. But what it is like he's seen more and had it absorbed it over years. And so in those instances, even if Malcolm's taking shots you don't like, you're getting possessions that generate at least a decent look more often than not.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to the younger guys, you may end up with a live turnover. Or a grenade pass that leads to a shot clock violation. Like those things are more likely to occur. And so you structure the development of Scoot and Shea within the brackets of guys that are more consistent.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it gives Shea an opportunity now with no Scoot, no Ant. You got Brogdon, Jerami, DA out there. It also allows him to understand, like, he kind of gets in this window, he gets to play a lot of roles, and they get to kind of see how he is in all of these different facets of the team. I think this is the part of the team building that I'm really watching, and I have kind of watched. And so I'm kind of glad we could break that down and you could give people the X's and O's. Let's get to the mailbag because we got a ton of questions. We got caught up in a Miami Heat battle on Twitter, and I just here's my only thing. Miami Heat fans, if they want to be ridiculous and hold on to this Portland thing, like...
Oh, the best part about it is these guys don't follow me. So they're stalking my feed. It's like, oh my God, you miserable humans.
Can we just ignore them? Nobody wins with this. You're not Portland fan reacting.
I told you what my new thing is, right?
You just block them?
No. I'll throw a quick quote tweet. I'll just retweet it. There you go. Have at it. I just do one little thing. Bloop. And then it's like chumming the water. It's fun. I like it.
So let's get to a couple questions here. I'm going to try to peruse through these as best I can. I'll start with the first one. At TGive77, would you rather move off of Brogdon for the right price or keep him around for a veteran presence that could also help in the development of the young guards? I will answer this quickly, Danny. I've been a big fan of Brogdon. I've liked him. He's taller Andre Miller, and that makes me happy inside. And so I hope that they keep him as long as they possibly can. But I also understand the league, and man, I think he's had a good season so far.
Who?
Brogdon.
Who? I just wanted to hear it one more time. That's all. Because everybody wanted to sit here and belabor the Brogdon can't play or shouldn't play, and he's taking
like shit. Is my microphone dead?
No, I'm sorry. I'm just screwing with you. No, Brog is like, with the exception of last game where he just shot poorly, he was just sixth man of the year a year ago.
I know.
He's really good. He's a steadying presence. Everybody, like people in the comments now, he needs to go. You got to trade him. Shut up. Shut up.
There are people really in the comment section right now.
Yes, shut up.
Why? I think he's been good.
That's not even thinks he's been good. You cannot play Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe 48 bleeping minutes. Stop.
We just went over those numbers.
We literally just went over this. And that's like, get it through your heads. You need I have talked to guys on those process 76ers teams. It was miserable. If you're playing too well, yoink.
Yeah, they benched him. They won 9 games.
Like,
9
they
games.
don't want to be, like, the Blazers actively do not want to be a part of that culture. They want to have DA.
Culture.
They want to have Rob. They want to have Brog. They want to have Jeremy. Like, they're going to be bad naturally because they have a 19-year-old point guard. Like, Scoot's going to be better. He's going to be very bad. We tried to talk about that this year. Mm-hmm. And everyone's, no, he's going to average 18 and 9. Sure, you're right. Scoot Henderson, 19-year-old point guard, is going to be the best rookie 19-year-old point guard in the history of the NBA. That's what we're going to see. He averaged 17 and 6 and shot poorly in the bleeping G League. But you're right. High efficiency turnout is definitely in his future in his rookie year in Portland, while they're integrating 9 other players. I could definitely see that happening. No, for the love of God. I think Scoot is going to be very good. But he needs a guy like Brogdon to teach him the ways, the point guard Yoda. Like, you need that understanding. Like, people are like, well, Dame didn't need it. No, you're right. The guy that ran 30,000 pick and rolls in college and was the #1 scorer in the country and was the best pick and roll guard we had seen in the draft since Chris Paul. No,
also 22 years old when he came in.
23.
23. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
Yes, it's a massive deal. So it's like, shh. They need those guys. They need them. It just is what it is.
This one from Brian Likety. I hope I said your last name right there. I'm sorry if I didn't. I'm not the greatest with names, but I try. I know it's early in the season. Were you surprised at all? This team has won a few games, 3 games in a row. There was a nice little win streak they had. Yes, they had one of the more horrific ends to a game I've seen in Blazer history with a 26-2 run to close out a basketball game, but they damn near won that game. They won 3 in a row. What was your surprised meter at? Mine was a solid 7-5. Didn't see it coming.
Surprised on the win-loss, but the production, efficiency, things like if you take the other teams out of it, not surprised.
I thought they could beat Detroit, and I felt stupid in that moment at the halftime going, cool, we're not. And then they came back and won. And
well, okay, I want to share a few things with you from cleaning the glass, okay?
Yeah,
Portland is 26th in the NBA in point differential at 7 a game. According to the stats that are kind of all grouped together, their expected win-loss, this is based on their again, how many games in an 82-game season would we normally expect a team with this efficiency differential to win, okay? They're expected to win 23.5 games, according to what they have seen so far. What you have is very, very, very serious anomalies, okay? I want to pull up a couple things here real quick.
Okay.
In spot up, they are in the 7th percentile, which is 28th. In pick and roll ball handler, they're in the 10th percentile, which is 26th. In transition, they're in the 7th percentile, that is 28th. So they're horrible offensively in basically every form except for isolation, and that's because of Brog and Jeremy. Beyond that, if you go and look at the box scores, I need to pull this back up because apparently I closed that tab. Let's go box scores. Portland. Oh, not Portland. Although might have been Portland back in the 1800s. No, nothing. Okay.
Sounds about white.
Hey, somebody's picking up what I'm putting down. Let's go schedule and results. Okay. Let's go to the box score of their first win against the Toronto Raptors. I want to ask you, has there ever been a time where you thought, this team can win if they went and shot 4 of 29 from 3?
I would counter and say no, because I didn't think a team would win shooting. What were the Blazers that game? 7 for... they weren't much better, right?
No, they were 11 of 35.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm thinking of a different game where
I was going to say, it goes on to there. But
yeah.
They managed to suck significantly less than the Raptors, who,
yes,
like, I mean, the 2018 Houston Rockets are like, wow, Wow.
That was
really?
pretty
Like,
bad.
you missed a lot of threes. Okay.
And then they couldn't miss when they play. I think they had like a really hot night against
They
Milwaukee
blew
the very next game.
doors off Milwaukee. They shot, I want to say, 44% from three as a team.
That's what it was.
It was on like 40-something attempts. It was like, there's the correction. Okay.
I know. I was watching it going, damn, Portland avoided everything, huh? Just give it to Dame in Milwaukee, I guess.
Okay. Then you shoot 7 of 20 in the year 2023 of our Lord from three. But you get 33 free throws to your opponent's 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not normal.
That's a little weird. Okay.
That's
now let's go to Memphis. Your opponent takes 13 free throws, but shoots 10 of 35. That's 29% from the free throw line. You shoot 9 of 32, under 41% from the field, but you take 36 free throws to 13. Those things will not happen frequently. Counting on them, using a win as some sort of success indicator as proof of concept. I wonder if this is a play-in team. Put money on it. Don't do it. It's a bad idea.
Yeah.
My point is that you can enjoy the wins all you want. Do not extrapolate wins further from them because they are very, 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 very bad indicators. This is a team that, again, according to Cleaning the Glass, they should have won 2 games right now.
Yeah.
And that has less to do with them and more to do with how bad their opponents played.
Right.
One was Toronto, the other one was Memphis.
This one from Cookie and a bunch of numbers, so I'm not going to read it, but Cookie on Twitter says, bench scoot for Shea when Ant is back.
They're still a month away from that.
Yeah.
I think it is a very, very, very real possibility.
Yes.
I think it would be very helpful to both to have Scoot Shea, when they were on the floor together, when Ant first went down, was very bad. Horrendously bad on, again, small sample size theater, all that, but it was bad. The second they threw Brogdon on the floor with Shea,
yeah,
it's not only is like Scoot bad, Gordon or Brogdon good, it's a stabilizing force. That's more than Brogdon just being better. It just made things for a lot simpler for the Blazers.
Final question here. There's a couple of them here that get kind of lumped into kind of the same category about Deandre.
Sure.
So to kind of lump them together instead of parsing these out, do you think they're going to look to get him more looks, or do you think that they're happy with kind of the way the offense has kind of worked with him in this system? Like, do you think they're going to aim to get him more looks, or would you kind of expect largely what we've seen so far?
That they're still trying to figure it out. So the bones of the offense, we talked about this so much coming into the season, was going to be Ant and DA. And you could see the spacing and DA working in the pocket with Anthony Simons and having more space to work with. Those opportunities aren't there with this group. So you see it a little bit with Brog, but Brog's also having to shoulder the I need to get 18 shots a night up burden. So trying to integrate those things there is proven a little bit difficult. Also, Shea and Ayton are still working on their relationship. I would imagine, and I've asked Chauncey about this. I want to talk to DA kind of how things have gone, but unfortunately, it's only 2 home games and they're out on the road again.
Yeah.
But it's something I definitely want to ask about in the sense of what spots do you feel most comfortable in? Obviously, operating in the pick and roll and in that pocket, but do you want to have more opportunities with creation? Do you like working in DHO stationary, or do you like working in handoff stationary, or do you like working in dribble handoffs? Do you like having the actions kind of go against each other? So dribbling towards the sideline, having the guard come up. Where do you feel like you have more effective places to operate? Do you like having your back to the basket? Do you like having face up? Do you like to be at the elbow? Looking at off the top of my head, my first reaction to looking at the diet of play types the Blazers have run is I feel like they're maybe trying to go to the pick and roll because it's a simple staple, but also I kind of want to see them do more DHOs with DeAndre. The problem is the DHOs the Blazers have run so far have been awful.
Yeah.
So there might be some hesitancy to get into that because there's a lot of timing and spacing and how things work through that. So I'm not entirely certain, but that's one of the things like I want to see how that part of it shakes out and what, because look, you can be a critic of Chauncey, and I don't think Chauncey has been, Greg Popovich by any means. Sure. I think their staff has been coaching their ass off with all of the changes and all of the opportunities. Like, they are trying stuff on both sides of the floor. So like, he's starting a rookie in the second half against Desmond Bane. Like, they are like pulling levers, twisting knobs left, right, and center.
Yeah, I would add to that too. Like, went after him after the Clipper game, just really didn't like it. And I would say the last like 4 or 5 games, I've just been sitting there like, okay. Like, I don't know what it is, but like, I can see that he's trying to make what it is.
Yes.
If that makes any sense.
Like
right?
He's trying to make a soup, but like the ingredients aren't quite right. He's like, I'm gonna.
Yeah, they're like, I'm gonna dump mushrooms in this.
If I roast these won't suck quite as much. Like, we can choke this down. Like, that's the kind of situation like they're in right now. It's like when you're trying to operate within the budget. Again, let's go something everybody can relate to right now, because grocery prices suck. I know, because I just had my groceries delivered and I wanted. It was terrible. But you have a budget to work with, and sometimes you can't afford the steak, and you got to go with the ground beef. And so you're going down the list. Like, if you got ground beef, you can't make the elite, beef meal.
No, but you can make a good spaghetti. Like, sometimes you can make spaghetti.
Sometimes you can throw a little spaghetti on the plate, and that's okay. You can keep it simple. That's like, and I think that's the thing is they're like, okay, we want to do this. The bones of this says this. Our identity says this. This is the thing we set out. We talked about coming into the season about wanting to do. We can't do the bolognese, but we can do the spaghetti. And I think like that's the way you kind of have to look at this, is that Scoot, Shea, DA, like Scoot and Shea specifically, they aren't the advanced levels of what you think or want them to be yet. Right. DA, it's about like finding the best ways to use him. Ant, when he gets back healthy, getting integrated and showing his elite skills, and then trying to merge all those things together to make a pretty decent stew. And this is the last thing I'll say about all of this. The thing you have to remember is the roster is so far from done. Everybody's trying to, they need to do this. It's like, they're 3 years from having like the ideal kind of roster. They're short on playmaking. They're short on shooting. They know that, but they're not going to go make wholesale changes because they want to try stuff.
You, as much as we want it, you can't finish the rebuild within the 1 year here. Like, and that we always highlighted this, man, was like, some of you ain't built for this. And so like the patience thing, it can go very quickly, especially when you win 3 games in a row randomly. There's like a belief in the city. It's like, hey, maybe we actually, and like that's a real thing. I know people in my life that do that, and that's okay. But I just think it's important to highlight the process of the rebuild and kind of what this takes.
It's great that they got some wins because, man, coming up
could be tough.
It's gonna be brutal, man.
So tomorrow they play at Sacramento.
Yeah.
You're at the Lakers, who are desperate right now for a win.
They
at
probably
Utah.
won't be favored in a game until they're at home December 21st against the Wizards.
That that actually tracks. I'm looking it up. Because they won't be favored at Indiana. So it's like, look at it. I mean, you could run through the list. We don't need to do it, but Sacramento, LA, Utah, Cleveland, LA again, OKC in town, at Phoenix, Utah, at Milwaukee. So there's the Dame return, kind of against his former team thing, at Milwaukee, at Indiana, at Cleveland, at Utah, at Clipper. Oh my God, you just rattle it off. And then you get
between
to
now
December
and Christmas, 20. Dude, they're gonna win maybe 2 games.
Maybe
it's so brutal.
Like they could maybe beat the Indiana Pacers. I don't know, but like that's kind of the point of all of this.
It's so look, and if they win 5 games in that, awesome. Yeah, like
for sure.
That schedule is not just brutal for this team. That schedule is like, I bet you that they're top 4 in strength of schedule from now until Christmas. It is an absolute gauntlet because not only is there so many good teams, they've got a 5-game road trip 5-game road trip, a 3-game road trip with between the 5 and the 1. There's just a one quick one at home, so it's essentially like a 7-game road trip because that 1 game home is just. Bleh. But thankfully they do get that is Thanksgiving, so they do get Thursday, Friday, Saturday off before going on the 5-game trip. So they did luck out.
That's gonna do it. I would just be better, Blazer fans. Please, can we stop giving the Miami Heat fans what they want, which is they're depressed, their team's not very good, so they just have to reach out and poke and prod. Can we, if we're doing a mailbag, can we just ignore the Miami Heat section and ask questions? There were some good questions in there, so thanks to the people. That's all I got, man. We're over an hour now, and so I don't know. I know it's a different method of doing the pod for us. This is a new style, but I got to be honest, as your co-host, I kind of enjoyed this a little more, and I think we helped educate some people on what Shaedon's been.
We'll keep this one going. If you guys like it, don't like it, let us know on Twitter. At Jack Ramsays, at Danny Marang, at Brandon Sprague. You got anything else, brother?
No, I think that's it. Just stay tuned for the go check out Danny Shaedon Patreon.
I'm gonna once we get done here, I will post this show and start that process, and then I'll probably have the Shaedon. Not probably. I'll have the Shaedon Patreon out tonight. So
there you go.
I got to put some finishing touches on that. You can find us again on social media at Jack Ramsays, at Danny Marang, at Brandon Sprague. Email the show, jackramsays@gmail.com. You can find Brandon every morning, 6 to 9, with his co-host, Andy Dirt Johnson, who's going to lose this weekend like a complete dirtbag, and I'm going to rub it in his face.
It would be the funniest thing of all time.
Brother, look, I am fully prepared for USC to get absolutely mud stomped. I am going to be at the game. I will be down there.
Oh, you're going to the game?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to go suffer through it. It's going to be terrible.
I love it.
I know it, but it's the last time that both these teams...
You get to see Caleb.
I get to see Caleb live, which I haven't done, and I also get to see the last time these two meet in the Pac-12. Like there's like a literal history. Like I know they're moving to the Big Ten, but
you got the Big Ten games coming. So.
But like it's a legitimate opportunity to see history. It's kind of cool. And it's going to be a historic ass kicking. I have a really suspicion I'm not going to enjoy it, but that's what the Booze is for. As long as that band's fired up 18 times and drives everybody crazy, it's a win for me. You can find me with my co-host, the sideline reporter for the Oregon Ducks, Dusty Hera, noon to 3, also on 1080 The Fan. And again, you can find all of the extra work at patreon.com/Jacked Ramsays. I will keep the... Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I was going to add, thank you to everybody that watches on YouTube, to Jack Ramsays. If you could be very kind... I don't know. I'm not saying you got to tune in every day, but if you guys like our radio shows too, because they're a little different than what we do here.
YouTube.com/1080 AM The Fan. Go over there and follow. We are live every show. His show, my show, Primetime with Isaac and Suk. They are all there. So go over there. Please like, rate, review, subscribe over there as well. I think we're just we launched it a week ago, and we're just under or 2 weeks ago. We're just under 1,000 subs now. So appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. We will probably do another one. I think.
I have to look at. Hold on, let me see the schedule.
What's Friday? Probably Friday or Saturday. Because we have game Wednesday, game Sunday, game Tuesday. So we have Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we'll probably look at Friday or Saturday. It usually works best for us. So we'll go in that vein. And then other than that, guys, have a wonderful night. Take care. Talk soon. Bye.